This episode is brought to you by the Cajun Spoon, the small box with the big flavor, featuring easy-to-prepare jambalaya, gumbo, shrimp and corn bisque, and more. Available nationwide at your local Walmart or order online at www.thecajunspoon.com.
Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. How many of you went to a Christmas party last week and the food was okay, the hosts were kind of boring, the setup was pretty average, but it didn't matter because you were all waiting for that one person to show up to the party and make it a real party. Make everything more loose and more fun. And the reason why this person, that everybody knows, that one person, the reason why they can do that is because they know how to do one thing really well. They know how to walk into a room and make everyone act differently than they normally do. In the NFL, you have a GM or a coach or an owner that will make everyone act and do things differently than normal because of the high command that they have. With players, it's a little different. They rely more on owners. They rely more on general managers and coaches to put them in good situations. Tom Brady needed Kraft and Bill Belichick. Breeze, he wouldn't have been as successful without Sean Payton. The Mannings, without the Giants organization. Or Peyton Manning needed Bill Polian as the president of the Colts to get his career started. Now, maybe John Elway is the only quarterback, because quarterback is the most influential player on the field, is really the only example I can think of where a player elevated a franchise, despite it being dysfunctional with average coaches before Mike Shanahan showed up in the 90s. But Joe Burrow, currently in his second year for the Cincinnati Bengals, is doing something we've never seen before. Burrow has convinced the dysfunctional Bengals to change their behavior. Not just elevate them, but completely change. That's really, really hard to do, to make someone change their behavior. But what Joe Burrow has done at 23 years old, the day he was drafted, he somehow convinced an 86-year-old multimillionaire in Mike Brown, for the first time in his life, to change how he ran a business. NFL, it really shouldn't take that long to get a team back on track. With the draft, with the current state of free agency, trades, a lot of NFL analysts and former general managers who are now in analyst roles say, in today's NFL, it really shouldn't take, a team longer than 2 years to kind of turn it around. Before the last 2 seasons, Mike Brown, the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals, he was running his team like it was still in the 1980s. Everything was on the cheap. Never spent a lot of money in free agency. And the past 2 off seasons, the Bengals have spent more money in free agency than any time in recent memory. They've had the same owner since 1991, same general manager for over a decade. It's been in that building since 1999. Owner never listened to anyone on draft night, ever. Not even the scouts who had been doing their job all year round, 24/7, 365. He shows up on draft night. No, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do whatever I want. And Joe Burrow on draft night last year said, we need to draft Jamar Chase. And they listened. Look at Coach O before Joe Burrow. LSU had leadership problems on the team. They had a team meeting before the start of the 2018 season. He made Coach O change his offense. He got everyone in the locker room to buy into the system. I think back to the Vanderbilt game in 2019 that perfectly sums this up, and it was so subtle but so impactful. Freshman running back John Emery Jr. goes into the game against Vanderbilt, and he misses his pass protection block. And Burrow just looks to the sideline, points at John Emery, and waves his hand saying, get him the fuck out of here. And Emery never saw significant playing time on the field the rest of the season. Burrow told the coaches he ain't playing in my offense. He convinced the Bengals to return to a third-year head coach, Zach Taylor, after 2 straight losing seasons. Most NFL owners in that situation, most of them don't know football very well, and they overreact. They just fire a guy after 1 or 2 bad seasons. They don't look at the context of the X's and O's, the detailed improvement on the field. Is the coach really at fault for all these losses? 90% of teams would just fire a coach in that situation. Burrow comes out and says, no, you're not. He's my guy, and he's staying. He's a better coach than you think. And, as of yesterday, the 2021 Bengals are leading their division, and they became the first offense in NFL history to have a 4,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers in the same season that were all 25 years old or younger. Look at the bottom feeder teams this year. The Jets, the Browns, the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Texans. Same bad ownership over and over and over again. Same bad results over and over and over again, regardless of who the quarterback is. Now, sure, every once in a while they get lucky and they have their moment because eventually, you'll get a good player on your team and you'll go on a little bit of a run. It happens to everyone. But their behavior essentially stays the same. Burrow isn't doing this with the Bengals simply by being great on the field, although he is. He went into the party and got everyone to loosen up and change who they were. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.